Today what we're going to look at is how an artist would construct a picture. So there are different types of balances. You could have a balance, what we call an asymmetrical balance, or asymmetry, where everything is over to like maybe to one side and you have a lot of space this way. Sometimes I have to think about if I'm making a portrait, I may have the head in this direction with things going on this. I wouldn't have it going this way and it's going straight off the page. Sometimes you have a balance where everything is in the middle of the page. So we call that symmetrical balance. Sometimes you have something that's a little bit very close to the space so that everything is that brings you right in and it breaks the picture plane. So we're always concerned about the space, complete space around the picture. So in the drawings today, we'll look at how we can construct and how we can use the space in designing our space. So a lot of times it's not so much about how well you can draw, but it's how well can you design your space. So I want to look at this area right here. Composition. Music, they have it in music, they have it in visual arts, they have it in dance, they have it in many different forms. So we have a page. We call like this is the frame. Think of your page as the frame here, these frames. And you can work on this for a long time. Just look at this photograph that I made. See, this is the picture. The trees could have been placed right in the middle. The horizon could have been right in the middle, which would have made a very static design. But by moving it over a little bit, it gives it more of a balance, we call it asymmetrical balance, by moving it over to the side a little bit and by bringing this down a little bit. So I'll show you what I see in they used to call it the rule of thirds. So if I make it a grid on my drawing, and normally I wouldn't do that in the drawing, but if I made a grid in my drawing, I wouldn't plop my image right here, nor would I bring my horizon line right there. I would bring, like we saw in my trees, I'd put my trees over here. I'd bring my horizon line probably down here to the lower third or to the upper third up here, so that you can see this a little bit better. I'll fill it in with a little bit of color so you can see this. And this is water soluble color. It's not the real color now. I'm just put it in color so you can see it. And just say our tree was in here, so you can see. If I was looking at designing, I would kind of like design my space like that. And let's see, I'll grab some blue. This is water soluble. I can just put a little bit of color on and then just move some color around. Again, still I like working these little thumbnail sketches, quick little thumbnail sketches, so they can give you a quick idea of something, laying out something just by using this grid here. You can orchestrate an idea. Okay, so now let's take this same image. And this is why sometimes I could take this, like a reference photo, like the same reference photo, and make something a little bit different with it. So now one of the elements that we think about in art is like dominance. Like take something and make it really dominate the space. So where I would have the tree like this, so let's use that same format. Now I just really bring that tree to the foreground and make it pretty large, so let it really dominate the space. Let's put some color on it so we can kind of see what we have here. Colorize it a little bit. So here, and just see now, like this whole tree takes up most of the space, and I'll put a little blue in the background for the sky. I'm not going to bring it close because it'll just kind of blend in. I'm not trying to make pretty watercolors right now. I just want you to see that you can make something that's pretty dominant. So now this tree with the same the same idea, now we made this one very dominant by using the same reference material. The same reference material, we can make two different styles of drawings. So here we have the tree here where we brought it closer to the picture plane and made it bigger, so we made it a lot more dominant. Here we have it back in space. Here we moved the tree here, but now we moved it up here. So, and this color scheme, like blue, green, a greenish blue sky, blue, green here, mostly green here. So what can we do in the foreground with a small shape to make this dominant? And although it's small, what we do is we use the complement. So I'm going to take this orange, and I'll put this orange down here. And now I'll put a little water on it. You can bring your eye down to the bottom of the page just by bringing in that little flower here at the bottom. So the artist has all these different means of ways of bringing you around the picture. So here we use the rule of thirds. We use the grid. We didn't place it right in the middle. Here we dominant shape. Here more of it. You notice it's not in the middle. Just taking, if we were to change this around, the grid around in the other direction. Now we have this up here. And you notice that I didn't put everything in the middle. I still have it off to the side of just a little bit. And then I use the complementary color to show some balance. Scale of this color, small scale of this color, but because the red or the orange is so much brighter, it has so much more intensity just because of the size of the object. Here in this one, I changed the composition a little bit by bringing in a path, a leading path, which brings in perspective, but also it brings in this shape, this curved shape, kind of like brings you in and around. Now the other element that we didn't talk about, but that we could add to this, is we can add texture to it. I can do it with the brush, or I can do it with pen. And since I'm working with a brush now, I'm just going to use the brush. So in the foreground, say if I just started bringing in like the grass like forms here, I'll act like I'm Vincent van Gogh now and just start adding in these lines. I bring in texture. So now this whole field here in the foreground can give it some interest just by adding in the lines, textual lines. And as they go back in space, I need to make them lighter and also make them shorter. So I don't want them to be the same length. And you notice I'm not trying to put them in a row, nice and neat in a row, just kind of like randomly place them. Like in nature, it would just be kind of like randomly just placed all over the place. So I just place them like randomly around. Same thing down here, just with some. And then by bringing in some darks in the foreground, I can bring your eye to the foreground of the picture. So one of the things I like to do is like to bring in a little bit of this foreground darks right in here to kind of like bring your eye close to the picture plane in the foreground. And it, just by doing this, you can change the whole look of this picture. So where these might have been appeared as though they were a little bit more dominant in foreground, background, now the interest is now here because of the texture. Your eye starts looking around for the texture. So, and as you can see, we're not going to be able to do all of this in one session. Let's see. Looks like a light wash in here. Bring it right down here to the foreground. Maybe a little more in the sky a little bit. Just by bringing the texture in, you can go in and grab a pen and put in texture with a pen, or get some drawings, and you can do pen and ink or pen and ink wash to try and do different things. So here we have 4 different compositions from one picture. We went one picture and we made the changes from this one picture. So the next time, when you're looking at, an idea and you have a reference, and maybe it's not an ideal reference, but just this little something in there, in that reference, you can take that little reference and add to it